Tell me what you know. Tell me what you know.
Welcome, ladies and gents, to this thing called podcast. My name is Bravo, and I'm very happy to be back here after a long, hot summer. We've all been chilling, we've all been jamming, celebrating, loving carnival, and now we are back to chat to the people. Weeks is on the boards today. Doing good? Yeah, nice. LG's not with us today. He's gearing himself up. He's resting himself up. He's preparing. His birthday is very soon, so he's gearing up, calling up the peoples, rounding them up, getting ready to rock and roll. And with us today, our guest returning is Bopper.
Yes, folks. Everybody all right out there? I was just saying to a man earlier on, the sun's half shining. But it won't be shining forever. So while it is, you better make sure you get the best of that vitamin D while we're out there. And on that cheery note, we're going to go in here, yeah? We're having a bit of a discussion.
Yeah.
But the primary directive of this discussion is don't take whatever you get on here at face value. You go away and you research it for yourself and you expand your mind. That's the job we're looking to do here. And from there, Johnny, the floor is yours.
Yes. So Weeksy was giving me an idea to talk about currency today. And generally, instantly, when people hear currency, they think money. And pretty much our knowledge just goes as far as that. We just know money is a currency. We use money to get things, and we use those things to replenish ourselves or to get more things.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have any thoughts about what the real meaning of currency is and how it can be explained to people in a way that makes them expand beyond just the paper.
Okay. If we look at the definition of the word currency, what you're going to find is an exchange for goods and services. So from that for money. So from that perspective alone, we cancel out the goods and services bit and we concentrate on the money, because in a Western orientated society, money is king. And from that perspective alone, we seem to lose a little bit of our direction, because currency, if you look at currency itself, it actually comes from ancient maritime law with the current of the sea. That's where it's in modern times has been devolved from. That's what marries money to law. Now, the thing about money is this: we're all intrinsically linked to it in some shape or form. Hence the reason why we will just do that thing of think about it. The problem with it is when we think about it, we think about our relation to it. Because a billionaire's got a totally different relation to money to somebody who's broke. Now, even if you looked at those two individuals, you can quite easily see there's a major discrepancy in the nature of how they analyze what they believe currency is. The billionaire can use his currency to do what? Generate more power and influence his situation. The poor person with no money, the only currency they've got is them. And from them, distinguishes what goods and services they're able to generate out into the world, hence the reason to be able to make the transaction to get more money, like you said. So currency itself needs a bit more of an introspection and a bit more of a varied view, especially from the point of view of the understanding of the individual and their relationship and understanding of currency. Because don't forget, if you're a sovereign being, you know that you are one of the supreme authorities on this planet. Currency can't buy that if that's what you believe, because being a sovereign being will also allow you to generate, accumulate, and make more instances of creating currency for yourself. But if you're going to take it from a point of view of currency as money and only money, therein lies the problem, because people go and make money. So you need to also marry the relationship that people have got with money to currency, because we are programmed not to follow government guidelines in relation to money. We look at it on the news, but we don't investigate it, because that's what we've been programmed not to do. So the examples that they give us of money, that's what we use as our standard bearers. And that's not strictly the truth.
So basically, are you saying there that you have to raise your value of yourself as a person is more important than than like the.
I'm gonna go along with you on that one, Johnny, because if your value system of yourself is complete, technically you won't have no problems in the world. You know who you are, you know where you stand, you know what your abilities are, you know what you can do, you know what you can't do. You know you've also got the capability to expand yourself beyond what you can do. And therein lies the problem for a lot of people, because once you get pigeonholed in life, your opportunities for making money become less and less. But that's the nature of how the system has been predicated. So I was talking to somebody not so long ago, yeah, and they wanted to bring back the partner hand. Do you know what the partner hand is?
Not properly, but I know it was like a
Yeah.
group of people with.
Yeah, we kind of touched it on the last one.
Yeah.
However, the reason why they wanted to bring it back was because they could see that it wasn't so much the money, it was the sense of community.
Yeah, yeah.
By us all doing this joint venture together, we all get strength together, we all grow. It might not be a lot of money, but it does do that thing where it might just drop into your lap at the right time that you need it. And the other thing is this: all the people that you're in that circle with, doing the partner hand with, even if you are short, you know Jim Good, or you know Barry Good, or you know Helen Well, or whatever it is, you can go to them and say, "Yo, listen, broke this week, you know, let me a little 20 there." And if your word is your word, these are not my words. These are Marlowe Stansfield words from The Wire. Your name is your name. That's the basic foundation of how you should be looking at your relationship with currency.
Right. So is currency important? Is currency as important and money as important now as it was in the past? And also I was thinking about like how does inflation like work in terms of currency? What does inflation do to keep like currency valuable? Like the importance of inflation.
If we went through the history of money, we'll just look at the last 100 years rather than going back. If you look at the last 100 years, the US dollar is the world's dominant currency. But in real time, in real money, it's actually only worth 2 cents. So 98% of it has already depreciated, because that's what happens with fiat money and currency. It depreciates because that's what it's supposed to do. The world's dominant money only lasts for 100 years. Hence the reason why we're in a state of flux at the moment, moving into a new situation. So governments generally tend to create inflation when they want to get more money out of the people. Let's just keep it simple. We could go into the rudiments of how it's created and stuff, but all governments know, because don't forget, the financial system that we live in, we operate in today, is predicated on debt. So once you overextend your debt, you have to then go borrow more money to pay your debt. Who's going to pay that back? Well, we're going to have to raise the inflation, so the people are going to pay for it. This is why people don't have that relationship with money that they should do, because if they did, the financial system that we're living in today couldn't happen, because too many people would be wise to the nature of what it is, what it does, and what it stands for. Right. It's not by accident. It's not by accident that today 85 people own half of the world's wealth. You want to think about that, people, when you listen to this. 85 people out of nearly 8 billion own half of everything. That should tell you the relationship with money is already being structured and cajoled to fit for the few, not the many. And then what you'll find is, if you have that cadence to go look back in history and try to understand the nature of money, what you'll always find is there's always going to be an elite at the top, because that's the system. Now, in this new financial system that we're moving into, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, because those that are in charge also want to maintain their status quo. But there's an opportunity for everybody, because the one thing that they've realized is this: we can't stop everybody from getting rich. However, those that do get rich, we can also put parameters on them. But then again, the argument then becomes, if they're rich, will be the same person as it was when they were poor? Possibly not, because money has a way of altering the nature of how you do. Hence the reason why, if you value your personal currency on money, you will be destroyed. Because human nature dictates, the more you get, the more you want.
When um you would think in this day and age, where especially like after what we went through with COVID, that trade, the trade of skills would have been re-implemented into society as a very valuable thing. Um, why do you think that like the government never really? Well, I mean, aside from just completely isolating us because of COVID and being like everybody needs to stay in their homes, why they never really encourage people to trade skills
Because for me, Johnny, I think when you look at when you look at Western society over the last, let's just say, 50 years, I don't need to go no further back than that. The whole nature of everything has changed because most Western countries went away from manufacturing and industry, so those skills are now being put on the sideboard. We've gone to goods and services, which is when I said right at the start, it's a transfer of goods and services. However, if you looked at the bigger picture in relation to COVID, somebody can ask, I'm going to say this, and somebody could say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but everybody's got their own thought processes and their own understanding of the world. Make no mistake, yeah. One of the facets of COVID was, can we realign the world to fit in to this new system? So if you look at it from the basic point of view of me and yourself, all of a sudden going into the shop and spending fiat currency, no, we need to keep pay on your card because I'm starting to get you into that frame of mind of being digital with your money because we are now moving into a digital age.
Yeah.
So I think the process has been, the whole of that process has been very interesting because if you look at it in terms of goods and services, now we're getting to a stage here where young people want to be influencers.
Yeah.
Now the problem with that is who's influencing you to be an influencer.
Yeah.
Because somebody who's doing that to you, if you're clever enough and cognizant enough to understand it, they've already valued you. So they're now going to put you in a position where they think it works for them in terms of what you believe your value is.
Yeah.
You're a sovereign being in your own right. That is priceless. And I think when you understand that, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. When you understand that you are a sovereign being, because you need to go and check what your sovereignty is to be a sovereign being. And once you understand that and become one of that, the money situation itself pales into insignificance because it becomes not so much a need, but your understanding of it changes that I have to have some to function in this society. But it won't become the be all and end all of your existence. And therein lies the problem because most people have been programmed to understand and believe that money is the order of the day. And if that is the order of your day, like I said earlier on, I'm going to say it again. If money is the order of your day, ultimately you will be destroyed. I'm going back to the wire. I'm going to use the wire as a reference point every now and again. It comes into my mind. Omar Little from the wire, he made a statement one time and he said it's like this: money has no owners, only spenders. And therein lies the fundamental problem because most people have been programmed to save money. So rather than the money working for you, it's actually working against you in the bank. Because if you was frugal enough and clever enough in your head, you'd spread that money around. Money draws money. So you spread your money around rather than being at the behest of the bank. Because we're now in this new climate that we're moving into. All right, here's one for you. As you know, I'm involved with the security of the carnival. Most people, just because I'm old fashioned like that, I want to pay you today. I had to go to the bank to get the money. Now the hoops I had to jump through to get my own money from the business account, it did really do that thing where it kind of, oh man, this cash situation is really changing. And just out of interest, yeah, I've asked all the cashiers, what do you think about the new digital financial system coming in now? Whether it was by accident or design or lie or not, I don't know. All of them said they didn't know anything about it. And I've got to believe that they were telling me the truth. But that was scary. The mere fact that people who were working in finance don't
know what's going on really.
Yeah. However, it's also, but then when I came out of the bank, actually, it was that sort of, I then realised, oh yeah, it's just another representation of the hierarchical structure because those down at the bottom don't know, but those at the top do. And there's always a trickle down effect when it comes to money. So here we are.
Yeah, I was thinking, what was I gonna say? It was yeah, it was gonna say when you were talking about people not knowing the sovereignty. So a few weeks ago in New York, there was a team of influencers that announced that we're going to be in. They said we're going to go into the middle of Times Square.
I think I saw this.
You saw that when they went in the middle of Times Square.
What's it called him now? Because they're talking about sending him to jail.
Yeah, Kai Cenat. Yeah.
Kai Cenat, that's the one.
Where he said, "Yeah, I'm going to go into the middle of Times Square with my peoples. We're going to do meet and greets, and then a random person we're going to give a PS5." And it went bananas out there. It was probably about three.
More than that. Yeah. 10,000 they're saying.
Yeah.
However, the charges that he's been put up on now,
yeah,
are more relative to somebody. Do you remember the? Because they're now balancing this off similar to Do you remember the January 6th situation in America last year?
Yeah, the Trump
Situation.
Yeah.
They're now saying that he's created a dynamic like that. Now, so let's look at that situation.
Yeah.
Let's look at that situation in terms of currency. Kai Cenat knows what his currency is.
Yeah.
His currency is the connection to the young people.
Yeah.
That's what's made him a multimillionaire. That's what's made him his money. So he's been clever enough and astute enough to find out how that works for him. He's created a persona out of that. And here we are. We can flip it on its head and then look at somebody like, most people know who Logan Paul is in terms of influencing. However, most people would assume that Logan Paul just influences on whatever channel he's on. No, because he's now broadened it into business stuff. He's now doing the boxing. He's having a major situation. He's brought out NFTs, which turned out to be a fake. And I'm saying that like that because that's what people are saying. That's the truth. He's also brought out that prime drink, which I'm not now going to sit here and knock him because that could, that's copyright infringement and defamation of character and all that kind of stuff. However, I'm saying, if you look at the people that are giving the actual currency, now you need to change currency from money to energy for this particular situation. If you look at the people who are giving the energy to, the one thing that you can quite easily see, those that are getting that type of currency energy, the last thing that they want to do is elevate and lift people. Somebody could be listening to this now and say, well, wait a minute, that's not the case with Andrew Tate. But if you went and you dig deep enough into it, rather than the surface stuff that's been put to you, even though he's doing boxing and drinks over there, Logan Paul, Andrew Paul's doing the same thing, but just using. I'm gonna call it a psyop. But there is elements of truth. There's lots of truth in what he says. He's a pretty deep guy. I'm not gonna knock him, but he's using the template that society uses. So as soon as he's tried to buck the trend with it, now all of a sudden he's ended up in that jail in Romania. Yeah. Now, has that weakened his position? Possibly not. It's probably strengthened it. You know why? Because he had to err on the side of religion. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Now we can talk about the currency of religion in relation to money, in terms of tithing and whatever you want to say, because it's all intrinsically linked. But the question becomes is, how much of this can you decipher for yourself? And not everybody's got the inquiry mind or want to know. And I think that's part of the danger. So going back to the COVID situation, most people have come out of that with a better understanding. Even if you didn't do governmental stuff, even if you don't believe in the medicine, even if you do believe in the medicine, you yourself as an individual, just because of what's happened close to you in your existence, you've got to know a different opinion of that. One of the current conversations at the moment, whether it's from conspiracy theorists or not, is mass mandates are starting again.
Yeah.
Right, okay, mass mandates are starting again, but the science is already out there to prove that
it doesn't.
The carbon dioxide going back into your body is going to destroy you. So now we're getting to a point here where people are going to make a decision on that. Now, the average person who's got their mind right, the average person who can think their way through a situation, probably is going to say no. But that's the true currency, because that's the undervalued currency that people don't check into, which is the power of the individual, the power of the collective mind, and the power of the people. That's really the true currency that we're on about now. I'm just going to go off on a tangent while I was in my head, yeah. They had a meeting down at West Indian Centre a couple of months ago, yeah. And, you know this Chapeltown Asset Protection Force situation?
Yeah.
They were having that initial first meeting. I went, yeah. And the speaker, the person who spoke first, yeah, he started, because most people were sitting in that meeting saying, why are you having a Chapeltown Asset Protection Force when you've got no assets to protect? The very first thing that the first speaker said, though, was, you are the asset. And to a degree, you're the point. However, I can now, but you can, on reflection, look back and say, well, wait a minute, you've always been in a position here. You've been in a position here, yeah, to understand the currency of this area.
Right.
Now there's an argument that says that you've negated it. Now here you are trying to reconfigure and reconstitute a different legacy for yourself. But the truth will out in the end. It always does.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting that people like don't. So the power of choice is definitely a currency in itself. You notice that like politicians, when it gets nearer to voting, they talk about the people a lot. When it gets nearer and nearer to voting, they talk about the people, and they talk about the demographics, and they talk about the needs for communities, and they talk about, and it all starts to sound a little bit more personal when it gets closer to voting, and then it kind of
Dissipates because
and becomes
because don't
blank
forget,
slate again.
because as a politician, I've used my energy to galvanize you to vote for me.
Yeah,
That's my job. I'm going to use your energy to galvanize a vote for me. Once you voted for me, you'll be lucky if you see me in that surgery. I'm there twice a week.
yeah,
On Tuesday and Thursday afternoon or whatever it is. However, my job is down there. Now, all of a sudden, I work for lobbyists now. The currency of the lobbyist will also... You see, that's a very sweeping generalization to make about politicians. But I think because we're living in the current climate, the one thing that everybody who has got a vested interest or looks at it is that... I'm not going to say corrupt. I'm not going to say they're corrupt. But what I'm going to say is they don't have the best interest of the people at heart. That's probably the biggest turn off in politics for a lot of people. However, I was just thinking as you were speaking there about the influence a bit, and it was that thing of, and it's interesting how they do these things. Medea. If I say Medea to you, what's the first thing you're going to say?
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry films, yeah. Right, okay. However, if you go and you look deeper, you'll find out that Medea is the Greek goddess of illusions.
Right, okay.
So Tyler Perry doing that alternate role creates an illusion.
Right, okay.
A politician's job is also to create an illusion in your mind that we live in a safe world, everything's going to be great, you vote for me, I'll turn into Superman, and I'll save the day.
Yeah. Because it's even like we turn into well, the party that's in power will say it's great, keep us in, we do greater, and then the opposing side to
right,
be like,
okay, it's interesting.
How bad
it's interesting that you said that, Johnny, because if you think about it properly, there are no opposing parties.
Right.
There are no opposing parties. They all go to the same universities. They all sit down together. They all talk. However, I was walking up here to come do this meeting, and one of the guys that was playing football today, he asked me about controlled opposition. That's what politics is, because it gives you the illusion of two people fighting, when actually in the background, they're all together, doing the same thing, drinking coffee, smiling and joking. Happens in law, happens in corporate, happens in all the structures and the hierarchical structures. So we just need to be a little bit careful how we tread here, especially when the illusion is the illusion. And therein lies the problem, because most people in terms of currency are locked into the illusion because they're looking at what somebody else's currency generates for them, rather than looking a little bit inside yourself and realizing, well, what have I got in here?
Yeah.
Where's mine? How does somebody go from that perspective of being, you go on social media these days and you've always got some influencer. It's interesting that we're talking about influencers, because the history that's going to be predicated for future generations is going to be influenced by these people. So it's interesting that we're talking about them now. If you notice, most of your popular influencers, or your popular influencers, think about the stuff that they talk about. None of them talk about currency. None of them talk about spirit. None of them talk about engagement. None of them talk about enlightenment. Nobody talks about any of these things. When you'd think, if you was going to enlighten people into the right direction, you'd think that these things would come up in conversation, but they don't. But there's a reason for that. And you already know the nature of what they're doing with social media in terms of free speech and all this kind of stuff. That in itself should tell you that the nature of currency is changing. You can't even walk out on the road and say what you want anymore. That in effect does have a distinct effect on you. Because now all of a sudden, I feel like I want to be able to go and shout off the rooftops, I don't care, I don't like it, and do whatever. And all of a sudden, you have to check yourself before you say it, because you don't know if it's going to work out against you. The last time I seen something like this, technically, it's like Nazi Germany, because the SS didn't really do all the legwork. The people did. So if you had somebody hiding in your cellar, the neighbour used to call the SS come and get you to put you in the concentration camp. Yeah. That sounds a bit dramatic, but the process is still the same.
Yeah.
It's just that people
you scare the people enough with consequences for whatever, and people will come up with, will take it into their own self.
The fear of not having money.
Yeah.
How does that make people react? The fear of being seen inferior because I've only got a 10 in my pocket and you've got 100. That in itself creates its own dynamic. So now you could quite easily, all right, so let's go off on a tangent for a minute. The Friday before Carnival, we had the shooting. Yeah. What was the currency of that 2 weeks ago? Because there was a currency of that. What was the currency of that 2 weeks ago?
Should people even come?
those that know, and those that don't.
Mm.
So should we even come with somebody who's not from around here,
Yeah.
who's looking at it as
Yeah.
I mean, as a tourist
Yeah.
or something? But those of us who are in here who know, gangbangers do gangbangers.
Mm.
And even in that situation there, when you go through the rudiments of that situation, when I heard about it, it was pretty much a running commentary I got of it. And my end thought of it was, that was a suicide mission, man. That's a suicide mission.
Mm.
Because you've gone into the heart of enemy territory, knowing that you're at war with people. That's crazy, man.
Mm.
Now you're expecting to walk out of there, get your stripes, and go tell your mates wherever you live, I went down there and I did that. You're not here now. So when we're talking about this influencer and this currency, we better know where we're going and what we're talking about here. The money will come eventually. If everybody does their due diligence going forward over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if you do your due diligence now, you can practically have all the money that you desire. But don't forget, you have to remember that's one of the major problems with money is what? Human nature dictates. The more you get, the more you want. And therein lies the problem, because where's your satisfaction? Where will you say to yourself that you'll be all right?
Yeah.
But then if you look at the examples over the last few decades, they've always been to drive yourself into the ground to get to the top. And then when you get there, you can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And that's where we at, brother. That's how we're moving. That's how they're moving us. So, currency, again.
Has to be more than just paper and just
But
money.
wait a minute.
And just, it has to be more than just satisfying your
All right,
your
you said
desires
paper.
and
You said paper, yeah. You said paper.
Yeah, it has to be more than that.
Of course it is. But you said paper. But we already know we're moving to a time when we're not.
Where it's cards,
Yeah.
it's credit.
Yeah.
It's
Do people then still have the same endeavor over currency tomorrow as they did yesterday? It's going to be interesting to see. It's not a mandate, one of the proposals, you mentioned inflation earlier on.
Yeah.
When digital money comes in, there'll never be inflation again.
When
digital money comes in full effect and everybody's using it, there'll never be inflation again. Ever. Because it's the end of the whole financial system, because everybody knows with the changing tide of the world and the natural nature of governments, we're changing here. We're changing. One of the ideas that was bandied around was giving everybody 2,000. Let's just call them 2,000 units, because they haven't got a name of this digital money. Everybody, whether you're rich or poor, you can have it. However, the case in point would be this: you can't save it. You can only spend it.
Right.
And if you don't spend it in a certain time, we can just wipe your account. So there's no more saving now when that comes in. And don't forget, for the poor person, that has been the underpinning of success for a poor person. I saved for a mortgage. I saved up for a mortgage. I bought a house. Now I'm the king of my own castle. That's how. Mortgages, the whole financial system is changing. And I think, you see, you've got a lot of nerdish types on the internet who are making millions. And you look at them and you won't even think twice. However, why? Because they know that the parameters of this new system are not in place yet. And they've found little niches and they've gone in there and they've made money. Because it's still there, because they're not going to stop you from making money, because they can't stop everybody. However, if they stop the status quo, let's say for argument's sake, 90% of the people, if 90% of the people were in this system, that's it. Now, if that does become it, sooner or later, yeah, people get to a point where, if you look at most revolutions in history, yeah, they've not started over something major. Little makes big. The people that get involved, and then governments and powers get overthrown. If you're a fighting leader, you'll get outbattled, because time dictates that you can't stay on the throne forever. And that's one of the things with digital money that we need to be really careful of. The people that are in the elite position in this world are looking to rubber stamp their position. And if this digital money comes in unchecked, it'll be too late then. This is why people...
It'll be the same 85 people.
Probably less, because they're all of a dying situation. Right. However, like we said earlier on, the billionaire's relationship with money and the average person is different. A billionaire will use his money, because once you've got all the money you can desire in the world, what do you want? You want power. So a billionaire will use his money to create a situation where his legacy lives on. there is a thing going around. Apparently, there is a situation where there's like some billionaires club now. And all of a sudden, folks, I got to tell you this. I'm going to say this, but you really need to go and research it for yourself because I'm just putting a statement out there. It's not to denigrate or anything. It's just a statement. But if you've got any interest, you'll go and investigate it for yourself. Apparently, there's an unwritten rule that all billionaires, the few hundred of them that they are in the world, yeah, they're all in a. I don't want to call it a cabal. I don't want to call it anything untoward because I'm not being in it and I don't know. There is an agreement though that all billionaires, yeah, when you die, 5% of your overall fortune you're allowed to keep to let your family be all right, and that should be more than enough for them to. Whereas the rest of it goes into a central pot. Hence the reason why.
You know what? Thing he said that I don't know. I didn't. Richard Branson like announced that or something that his family ain't getting it.
Yo, because that's
I've heard.
If you listen to these billionaires talk, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, I think Tom. I heard. Well, I know Tom Hanks. Well, I don't know. It's Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? He's definitely got money, but I've heard. I don't know if
more power. You see, to me, more power
talk like that as well,
yeah,
and
more
been
power
like,
to them for me, Johnny. More power for them because I'm not now gonna just do that thing because I know you as my kid, and I know what you'll do, and this fortune will be wiped out. So I know you. So I'm not doing that. You're gonna earn the right to, and if you show me over time that you earn the right to, and then I will, or gladly. But I'm not gonna leave, because I could be the catalyst to your personal destruction. You went, you suddenly discovered you were rich. You went to a party, started taking cocaine, you smoked crack, you grabbed up a couple of girls, you licked back some drink. Now all of a sudden, there's a situation going on in upper politics about somebody who landed in a situation like that. And if you've got any inkling about you, you'll know who I'm talking about.
Jackie Chan, I've heard Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan said that.
He had to lock off his boy. Yeah, he had to lock off his son.
His son. And the girl as well, because the girl has now come out and said, listen, he's dealt with me so raw that he's forced me to go transgender.
Oh, okay.
He's forced me to go trans. Yo, listen, I'll tell you what. See that you're talking like that. You go over there with your transgender self and I'll keep my money over here. Now you've lost your children. So now you're asking yourself about currency again. The currency to maintain your family situation and your status. Priceless.
And that's what it says. Like it all kind of stems from how revered he is in China. He's a Chinese hero. So it's the value of that over the value.
But we could also look at him in terms of being Chinese and everybody in Chinese saying that he's a Western guy. That's why it's happened to his family like this. Because he's been living in Hollywood for forever.
Yeah. And Hong Kong as well. I think he's Hong Kong as well, so which is British Commonwealth.
It belongs to come on, brother. Since 1997, it belongs to China.
Yeah. But there's still Hong Kong and China. There's still a bit of a thing in there.
Think about it. The island of Hong Kong cannot do anything to China.
Yeah.
China uses Hong Kong as its link to the West. Yeah. So most of China's financial actions, or quite a lot of China's financial activity, happens in Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong is, you heard that saying that money never sleeps, innit?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So Hong Kong is the east, London is central, and New York is the west. That's why there's a stock market opens every 8 hours. And that's why money never sleeps, because the banks are taking your money and gambling in them markets while you're sleeping. Okay. And it just goes around like that 24 hours. That's how the money keeps moving around all the time. Okay. You understand? Right. So it's interesting how we went from Jackie Chan to LIBOR. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Johnny, and that's the thing where people seem to, because money is intrinsically linked to every single person in this world, the most obscure things get connected to money. You understand? Who's the roughest gangster, whether it's in real life or in a film? Who's the roughest gangster that you would say,
Well, I mean, fictional. I mean, the name that always goes around the most is Pablo Escobar. Like, that's the one.
Ultimately, his downfall was what? Too much.
Yeah.
Too much money. Did you ever see that documentary, The Two Escobars?
No.
There was a footballer playing for Colombia called Escobar.
Right.
He missed the penalty. Pablo Escobar lost enough money on that game. He had him killed.
Wow.
Because the guy did that thing. I've not scored the goal.
Right.
But I'm gonna.
So what did he bet on him because of the name? He just what? Did you think it was a good luck charm that he was called Escobar as well?
I think it's more the fact that his name is Escobar and he's let him down in the penalty shootout. But because I come from making money through drugs that way, my meeting out of justice is different. It's not a pat on the shoulder. It's going to be a couple of caps or whatever. You know what I mean? Because that's the philosophy. So I don't mess about with money. Yo, a guy used to say this, yeah. Banks, yeah. I just watched this guy, yeah. He's a money man, an interesting guy. And he'd done that thing where he'd analysed the nature of the New World Order and married it to the fact of how the money situation is going to be changing. However, he did, one of his strap lines was this: banks, yeah, they're the biggest what? Money laundering,
Yeah.
drug dealing,
Yeah.
gun
Keepers-
running,
keepers
son
of
of a
money.
guns.
Keepers.
And these are the people
keepers
that you
of
put
money,
your,
yeah.
these are the people that you're putting your trust in. HSBC just 18 months ago, biggest thing on record. JP Morgan paid 300 million the other day. All these banks are paying out money. You know why? Because they're clearing the debts. So when we move into this new situation, you can't have them debts on you, because it's not going to be a debt-based economy anymore. It's not.
Because no one's going to be holding anything. They say you're going to have to
That's what they're
have,
saying.
and that's what they're saying.
That's
but
what they're saying.
That you're going to have to
However,
have and distribute your units to.
is that a possibility? What they're saying
Well,
to you?
Well,
from your
I
perspective?
think they do that though. I think they do like they have that when you rise in status, they don't let you be like they don't let you hold your money. Like if you say you're of a status, then your house has to be that much value. Your cars have to be of that much value. Your kids have to go to these schools in this areas. I think they've always kind of had that kind of thing of how we are going to control.
So there's an argument that says,
how
in response to what you're saying, and there's an argument that says, the more money you get, the more trapped you are. Is that fair to say that?
I think so.
These are not my words. I've heard it back in the days.
I think
more
so.
money, more problems.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of how it is. But because we want to create a debt, you see, I travel a lot, and I've seen abject poverty. Not some guy sleeping in a tent on Roundy Road, or somebody begging you for £2 in the road. No, abject poverty. The one thing I know about that abject poverty that I've seen, yeah, and I've seen it regularly, is the people in them situations of poverty, they're not poor in spirit. They're not poor in culture. And even though I'm living like this, they were smiling more than me, and I'm the one that's on holiday. So it's where you want to value this thing, because don't forget, we come under a Western orientation. And I'm not saying that the East is any better or the South. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we happen to be operating under Eastern orientation. And the one thing that I'm going to say, and I said it before in the other podcast, I'm going to say it again. All empires are destined to fall, even this one. This one is falling in real time in front of your eyes. However, if I say the words empire falling, you've got doom and destruction, buildings blowing up, cataclysmic earthquakes and all that. It might happen like that figuratively, but it doesn't happen like that literally. But it is changing in real time, bro. And the people must recognize this, because we're at a bit of an inflection point here that you're literally fighting for your freedom, bro. But people validate money to freedom, when that's not necessarily the case. Not necessarily the case. It gives you more choice. And the other thing is this: if you think about it, the most valuable things in life that are priceless, you can't put a price on them. So why would you now equate money in there? Now somebody could quite easily be thinking, yeah, but what about love? If you look at most relationships, there's some financial interlinking, even if you're just taking the person out for a day. There's some finance involved in there. That then will determine the nature of the power struggle or the coming together of the relationship that makes it all right. Point being, everybody needs a financial footing to be able to operate in the world. It just so happens that the world that we operate in doesn't really afford you the room and space for that financial footing. So you've got to make your own. You've got to make your own. Do you know what the acronym of job is?
No.
The acronym of job is just over broke.
Wow.
Anybody doing a regular job? Yo, brother, I learned this one when I was working in a factory way back. When the guy said he's been working here for 40 years. Right. He came down, his cheeks were trembling, tears coming out of his eyes. We said, yo, what's happening? When he said he'd been there for 40 years, the next day I was gone. Right. Because before you can blink, your life is gone, brother. So what? To your job. You're a person before your job. I know you get based in society on what job you do. But even that, now we've said earlier on with the goods and services bit, even that's coming into a state of flux. So now people are being asked to create your own job. Because fundamentally, that's what you're supposed to do in life anyway. Because you're going to work longer, harder, faster, and stronger for yourself. It also
when you reap the direct results of
your labor, that's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And it also underpins your sovereignty even more. Because you're not reliant on the government. You're not reliant on the handout. Yo, I had a meeting, yeah. I had a meeting about a month ago, yeah, with this guy. I've just set up a security business thing the other day, yeah. So this guy was going to come in and teach me some of the rudiments. His business, he's only down there. And the business is valued at 50 million. He doesn't do really your regular security in town and gates and all that, doors and all that. He does corporate stuff at Wembley and all this kind of stuff. You know what the very first thing he said to me, Johnny, when I sat down with him, yeah, he's like, oh, you're sat there. The very first thing he said to me, yo, I like you, brother. You look like you've got a nice energy about you and all that. However, if you sit here and act like a beggar, I'm going to treat you like a beggar. When he said it, Johnny, it was like, blood clot. Because all of a sudden, everything to do with where I live came under that mantle. And he knew what he was saying. Because the whole of our society, the whole of this community is being predicated on what? Begging. Most functional things that we do around here are predicated on begging. Because we've got a beggar mentality. The beggar mentality also feeds into the victim mentality. That's why it's always somebody's fault and it's not right and it's not okay. You walk up the street, we had this towards the back end, but you walk up the street, you see a different existence. Your brethren, who was here before, because he's come and seen it through his eyes and he's thinking, yo, wait a minute, that can't compute. But it does compute. But it's not by accident, Johnny. Not by accident. I had a conversation. Do I feel bad about it or not? No, I don't actually. I had a few days ago, yeah, I had a conversation with a guy. He's older than me. He'll be about in his early 70s. However, earlier on in my life, he did play a role in relation to sport and stuff, yeah. But anyway, we're having this debate, yeah. And you know what? He got to a point in the debate where he was talking about the creation of Mandela Centre here when it used to be Trades Hall and all this kind of stuff, yeah. So I turned and I said to him, yo, but wait a minute. Shouldn't it have been your job at some stage? Because you're now talking about it here all these years later. Shouldn't it have been your job to have some understanding that you should have protected that for everybody else? He went off on me. And I said, yo, brother, you know what it is? Part of the problem is, are you willing? He got to a point where I said to him, are you willing to take any accountability for anything that's gone wrong around here? And he said, no. And I said to him, you know what, brother? It's that old age thinking there, what might needs to be cut off. He said, what do you mean? I said, because me and you were a generation apart, yeah? And your thinking and my thinking are totally different. That's the disjointedness of what they've done. A kid then comes around the corner in his mid-30s, and I turn to the kid. In fact, sorry, he's not a kid, he's a man.
Well, yeah.
But I know him as a kid. So he's coming around the corner, and I said to him, yo, watch this. I said to my man, watch this, yeah? Listen, you're in your early to mid-30s, yeah? Outside of your family, yeah? You tell me somebody off the top of your head right now where you've gone to for love, care, and attention, guidance, and they've helped you through. He thought for a minute and he pointed at me and he said, you? And I said, why is that? He said, because when I was at school with you, when I got chucked out of school and I ended up with you, I learned more about who I was than I ever did in school. And some of that served me well now. Did I make any mistakes along the way? He then said, well, you could have warned me. And I said, warned you about what? You could have warned me about the nature of jail, because I didn't know that until I ended up there. So I kind of said to him, I said, I'll apologise for that. That was an oversight. I couldn't possibly know that you'd end up in jail. But now that you're saying it like that, I'll be more cognizant going forward. I've then turned back to my man and said, can you see the difference? You're standing here giving your version. And you know what really got me mad? Because he said, all of us are Windrush generation. I said, no. You are. I'm not. But you try to validate that. And therein lies the problem. You, him in there, all of us. Going back to the COVID situation, one of the things that they've done is they've took out the elders. I now know that I've got a role as an elder now. I'm one of the elders. But I know a lot of my peers are still young in their mind. And they're not willing to accept that role because rather than just accept the fact that the reason why you're an elder is because you've been on a journey which you accumulated wisdom from, which you need to transfer. You can just look at it like that. But no, you want to be doing that thing where, oh, wait a minute, you say them all, doing all that.
Where's my time? Yeah.
Rubbish.
Yeah, where's my time? It's like, no. It's like,
rubbish.
listen, you just got to make the best of
what it is.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, what it is.
You know.
You know what? It's and it doesn't really matter what it is.
Yeah.
Because
Just
at
make
some
the
stage,
best of it. Just
yeah,
make the
because
best.
some stage in there,
Yeah.
you'll find a niche, you'll find an opening, you'll find an avenue, and you can go and create yours from there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, brother, it's kind of yeah, that was a bit disheartening, that, which kind of did that thing for me where it was like, when Carnival got back here, I was outside Tower. I'd literally just got it back into the park from the procession, and I thought to myself, I'm just gonna film it. You know, I'm just gonna film the people. So I started filming at Tower, yeah, and it took me half an hour from Tower to get to Chapeltown Road, just going through an stream of people.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's currency.
The tower is
Top of
Eastern
Shepherd's
Road.
Lane. No, top
Oh.
of Shepherd's Lane. So
Right.
I've only worked up Herald's Avenue. That's all.
Yeah.
But the influx of people, it took me half an hour to get through all them processions and all those people.
Yeah.
Because that's when I understood the nature of currency as it stands.
Yeah.
Because that's the power.
Yeah. So recently, France and Niger are going through a situation where I think France are trying to run some power lines or something through Niger or something to try to
It's bigger than that.
yeah.
It's bigger than that.
Okay.
Because don't forget, if you look at all of that, you put Mali in there, you put Senegal in there, you put all of that Western. In fact, you just put all those countries, yeah, that France has still got control over, because this is Africa's line in the sand. This is where Africa has said, we're not doing Rorke's Drift back in the 1890s or 1880s. We're doing it here like this today. Now, the one thing about all the Niger and all those countries, yeah, what have they got? Resources. So the currency is actually with us. However, the laws and mandates and the financial imposition that you put us in, that's why you control us. Think about it, yeah. France, yeah, uses the euro as its money. Whereas all those countries in this situation in Africa, they all still use French francs because they've got control of the money. So that's why the currency of this situation is changing. Because don't forget, you know, when you go to France, yeah, you can't get, if you come from Africa, you can't get French citizenship. You can get assimilation into society. So you're like a bit of a ghost or a shadow. You can make your way through if you do sport and music and the regular stuff. But the average person, people around here like to say, we got ghetto around here. If you ever go to cities like Paris and Lyon and come out of the tourist bit and you look at, blood
When I went to France, we went to a place called Mont Lucon, and
what a thing. What a thing, Johnny. It's not even a joke.
And I went on a tourist place.
That's right, brother.
One tourist place.
So now the intrinsic people in France, it's a little bit like so going back to my man for a minute, when he was doing that thing of the original plan with Windrush, we were gonna come stay for a few years and go back and all that. When you go to France, you are considering going back to whatever maelstrom you've come from. Because when you look at this thing here, what I mean, oh my word. Nah. So basically, in real time, Johnny, everything in this new age is fighting for its existence. Even the French Empire in France. Now, what's interesting with France is places like Nigeria and all that. Basically, the leaders who are taking over are young. So the old colonial mindset is starting to evaporate because it's a young continent. They got some 80-year-old man telling me to go do this and you can't even get out of the chair. A little bit like the American dude.
Yeah.
You understand?
Well, I said something similar like with Charles, like being on the throne. I'm like, I know why he's doing it, because he's been on there he's always wanted it his whole life, but it's like
that's open to debate. That's open to debate, that, because we make it sound like we do, but we don't really know if he did or he didn't. It's his obligation and his duty to follow.
To go on there, but I just feel like, why ain't William just on the chat? I know
William's not ready.
Oh, right, okay.
William's not ready yet.
Okay.
He's doing William, to a degree. Don't be coming on this throne here, yeah. And then you've got your brother over there doing whatever he's doing. Because all of a sudden your image looks tarnished, especially when the brother could usurp from you. Most people don't know, you know, that the Queen had a secret sister who was locked up in a mental institution all the time. Nobody ever saw her. They only saw Prince Margaret. But she had one of them in the background.
Wow, okay.
Because now all of a sudden you coming out here looking whatever you're looking like. Nah. We look pristine. We do what we do.
Right. Okay.
So let's hide you off in the background.
Okay. But you
William's
can't do
not
that
ready.
with Harry.
William's not ready. I think as well, the thing with William as well is that William has followed the archetypal role that's been played. You will be the future king. But he can also see his role not as a future leader king, but more of a symbolic king. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think the monarchy will never relinquish the power. However, the power will deteriorate over time once the people start to separate away from the generation of people that held the queen, revered the queen.
Yeah.
They're all dying.
Yeah.
So most people of a certain age, you start asking them, I don't bother with that.
They're not bothered.
It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
If you ask the average 13 or 14-year-old, can you relate to William and Harry? They're probably going to say no.
Yeah.
However, with vested stakes in America, Australia, and all these other places over the world, they're still gonna have a position. But like I said, it might be more symbolic. Because don't forget the government work for them. So if you want a bill signing off, Charles has to sign it off. Now, interestingly enough, because Charles is very sort of connected to those people that we were talking about who said you'll own nothing and be happy. He's very connected to them. So if you go and you're doing an investigation right now, the UK will maintain its position in whatever this new empire is going to be, what they try to create, the NWO, call it what you want. The UK will maintain its position because you need the three facets, don't you, for an empire? Religious, military, financial. Anybody looking into London right now, London has put financial law into place, ready to go digital. One of the first things I remember with COVID was, the Bank of England coming out with a statement. COVID had been on for about 6 weeks, so it was about the first of May or something. Because COVID was in March. The 1st of May, one of the first things I ever saw when I started doing proper research, not proper research, but even more research into this digital thing, was the digital money for this country has been ready to go for 3 years. They're actually trialing it now with 200 people just living digitally. Because it has to be battle tested now. They know it works, but we're just going to battle test it. And they've only done it on a small cohort of people. So this guy that I was talking to today, when I was saying to him about poor white, poor black, they don't care. Everybody's going on this thing. If the only way you're not going on this thing is to understand what they're doing right now and create a dynamic where you make it on. Like I said, these nerdy types, they're making millions and millions of dollars. Now, it's up to you how you want to live. Have you ever heard of a guy called Sam Bankman-Fried?
No.
Right, Sam Bankman-Fried is currently up for court cases where he's in the middle of I think it's about 20 or 30 billion Ponzi. They're calling it a Ponzi scheme, but he wasn't a Ponzi scheme. It was him going and creating you know what derivatives are?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so you know the derivatives market. So once you copy iron, uranium, all them stuff goes onto digital. Now you're going to have multi-trillion-dollar businesses.
Yeah.
So his job was to permeate the technology that could make that happen. However, by doing that, he was always destined to fail. But what he did was he paid everybody off. If you go look at the Congress, there's a big thing. The reason why he's not really getting under no pressure is this, because he paid off all the Congress, both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, giving everybody money to sway his situation, lobby style, to get his paperwork through. But who does he work for? Who does Elon Musk work for? Who does Bill Gates work for? Because all these people work for somebody. But they're the representation that they want to put in front of you. And that's what you look at. It's not a joke, Johnny, man. This is not a joke. We're getting to a serious point here. And I know we're sitting down here on a Sunday afternoon having a casual conversation about it. But me, I can't speak for anybody else. Me, I want to go to some of them when this is done, if I'm fortunate enough to see it, I want to go to some of them countries where they're now fighting their way through to reinvigorate their culture, their understanding, and their standing in the world. Not belonging to France. Who's France? To say that they own you. The cradle of civilization where everybody comes from. Say France owns you. Nah, we're not living that life here now, bro. That French Empire is destined to fall. They cannot get enough soldiers in there to fight that fight. There's 1,000 military bases all over the world that America have got. They've got some in there. Going back to the situation, Nigeria doesn't come under this French situation. So they're using Nigeria. The West are trying to use Nigeria as their battlefront to get ECOWAS, because ECOWAS is like the African version of NATO.
Right.
So it goes into countries.
Yeah.
But then obviously who's pulling the ECOWAS strings? It's the West. So they're using their own people. There's a word, yeah, that I want you to go and investigate, man. Me and a brethren, yeah, when he's understood this word, we have a saying here. We see something happen, yeah, and then he looks at me, or I look at him, and he'll say, counterinsurgency at its best. You know what the word counterinsurgency means?
No.
Right, an insurgent, yeah,
Yeah.
is anybody who's got a rebellious streak about and fight the power. So you could argue that NWA were insurgents at the time.
Yeah. So
Obviously.
I've heard insurgent, but not counter.
But the
Yeah.
counter bit,
Yeah.
the counter bit is how the powers that be use your insurgency against you. So you end up fighting yourself.
Right. Okay.
Where you're busy fighting yourself, you ain't got no time to fight me, and I'll do whatever I'm doing. Hegelian dialectic style.
Right.
You can't see me, John Cena.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it becomes law, mandate, rules, governance, and here we are. But but because of the age that we live in, it's all out there for everybody to see. But you just have to have the eyes to go and look, and the inclination to want to know. And like I said, there's a lot of Carnival brought up a lot of things for me around here, because I think a lot of people kind of, they could actually see their own personal reality within the confines of Carnival. Because it's changing in real time, they're also changing in real time. What it's changing into, they disagree with, because the local financial part of the situation is, wait a minute, how come all these people from Manchester, Birmingham, wherever coming over here, they're making the money and we're not? So my counter to that has been, well, Carnival's been here for 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
And you've been here for 50 years or 40 years or 30 years. But what you've done with Carnival is you took it for granted.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's changing underneath you in real time.
Yeah. Because it's always been a business. It's never.
But Johnny, you have to remember. All right, you say it's always been a business. No, it hasn't.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't.
Okay. Right.
Going back to that thing, what my man from Malawi told me: if you act like a beggar, you get treated like a beggar. The money comes from council. Anybody who's trying to elevate, particularly the black, I'm not going to talk about Carnival per se, but the Black Music Festival on the Sunday, anybody who's trying to elevate that, they've been ousted. If you think about it and you think about it properly, Johnny, because that's been going for 50 years, like it's been going, yeah. It's an international name brand in its own right. So them 2 days should be able to generate enough finances for most people around here who have got a care to want to go and create finances out of that situation. Because it brings in enough people. So it's doable. However, I'm going to, suck it, man. Bopper, come on now. Let's go, man. Let's go. What does the MBE stand for? Because you have to remember, order has to be maintained. Whatever it's a new empire, new system, old system, certain formats will always be maintained.
I don't know what the M stands for, but
Member,
right. Okay,
so if you took that award, back in the days, Benjamin, the first person I can remember saying anything about that award was Benjamin Zephaniah, the writer.
Yeah, he got.
He said, "I'm not taking."
He got offered the OBE.
Same process. Even worse if it's OBE. Because you're only a member, lower grade. Sir's the same thing. Yo, listen. When I was doing that filming bit, I seen the old MBE that's associated to Carnival. I tried to speak to him. I said something along the lines of, keep fighting the good fight, freedom fighter, or something like that, because that's how he likes to package himself. And then when we came back, I was talking, and then what I realised was, the words that were going around was, the new local MBE is coming into play for Carnival. So that order will always be maintained. Now, a lot of people might have an issue with the new MBE. They might not. But the new MBE, he has, for want of a better, now in relation to the conversation that we're having, he has used the currency of this area to further his own cause, because any self-respecting person who's got any kind of understanding of black culture would not take that award. It's a very colonial thing to do that. What's that got to do with Africa? That's why they're going through Nigeria, because Tinubu, who's the president of Nigeria, they're calling him the West Bagman.
Right.
So if they're calling him the West Bagman, now all of a sudden you being the Bagman, maintaining the colonialism in Africa and the microcosmic way, it's the same way with the MBE thing here, because that's the playbook. So once you understand the playbook, it doesn't matter whether it's right at the top or down at the bottom. The playbooks is still the same. They purposely kept this area like this. It's not been by accident over these last 50 or 60 years. Because like I said to you before, it's a transient area and it's changing in real time. That's why, technically, nobody was allowed to put a foot in here. When all the drug money were flowing through here, the drug money should have gone into property. If you want to be drastic about it like that, because all the cultures have done the same thing. It's not a joke, man. However, the one thing I know is this. You talk about currency, yeah? When I go anywhere in the world, brother, anywhere, if I mention Chapel Town, somebody knows. So this older head that I was talking to the other day, he's trying to tell me, his argument was this. Well, it's not called Chapel Town, it's called Chapel Town Road. I said, yo, brother, as may be.
That changed years ago.
Yeah, exactly, as may be. But look what you're doing. You're drawing lines and circles around it, encapsulating it, and you're not in a position to encapsulate this energy. You know why? Because you've not been immersed in it long enough. You're a black guy that lives out of the area. So you've got an understanding of it, but you're not that because you've been brought up in something totally different. That's why you're not going to stand here in front of me and tell me this. A man said to me, Gino, the artist.
Yeah.
Gino, the artist, was talking to somebody one day, yeah? And he said, yo, he heard him say Chapel Town. And he turned around to him and he said, you know what? Tough is Chapel Town. So I turned to them and I said, you know what it is? You have to remember, there's a major discrepancy here between people who are born in Lead 7 and people who live in Lead 7. They're two sets of different people. However, people go about what they can see, not necessarily what they know. So if you walk up that street at any given day and you look at it, you'd be think about the picture that transmits from Carnival into most people's heads. It must be rough around here. There's thousands of them. No wonder it's like when I read about it in the papers, it's war, whatever. When actually the reality, going back to the mid-year thing, the illusion, because that's an illusion.
Yeah.
That's an illusion. Because less than 10%, and even a smaller percent of that are the people that actually go to Carnival from around here. But like I said, the currency of Chapel Town itself as an energy can't be. I was in Cuba and a man knew who I was. I was in Brazil and a man knew who I was. I've been in Africa and a man knows who I am. When you say Chapel Town, immediately. So this is the kind of currency that still pervades around here. However, it does seem to be diminishing and changing form because energy never dies, it just changes form. And I think the powers that be are very clever in understanding that. And what they're starting to do is change the form of the energy that we stand by.
Right. And we don't need that.
No, because ultimately that energy is the supreme force that allows you to be who you are. And like I said, you can't put no currency on that, even though it is currency. You can't put a price on that. Because I am what I am and I do what I do.
And my name is my name.
My name is my name. And if you've ever watched The Wire, my man Marlo went to extremes to protect his name. So called with stuff like killing off girlfriends. So you're not going to be able to go out and say that me and you did a thing or what? Yo. But as the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when you've got enough money, the currency changes to power.
Yeah.
You understand? I was watching something, actually, before I came here, I was watching something today. You know about Starlink?
No.
Starlink is the satellites that Elon Musk is putting up to run the 5G.
Okay.
Yo, because of his understanding that there could be a nuclear war, he's had talks with Putin to allow Putin to use Starlink before it's gone online. And that's how one of the reasons how Putin and Russia have been able to nullify the technical attack of Ukraine. They've got more bodies, so they can outman him. Because Ukraine's one of them countries, one of the top 10 countries with the least men in it. So even Ukraine itself, in the future, will be reformulated in a different type of way. Why? Because a lot of men have died in this war. So even the future of Ukraine is different. And if you do further deeper research, Ukraine was one of the first countries in Europe to go totally digital with the ID because they'd already been using it. It's not by accident this war's happening here. And like I said to you on the last podcast, you can be walking down the road in Ukraine today. I've seen pictures of Ukraine last week. People are sitting in cafes, drinking coffee and all this. However, the permutation of wars being planted in their head, you can buy 3 grand's worth of Bitcoin every day in Ukraine if you've got the money to do so. So wait a minute, I thought you were at war, you lot. Well, don't forget the digital money has to be battle tested. So they're testing it under war conditions because that's what they do. DARPA, NSA, all those people who bring all these inventions out on the road. They test them under battle conditions.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what technology France has got lined up for Africa. Because they're insistent on not moving. However, this is the kind of thing that's going on with Niger. France gets 90% or 80% of its uranium because it's nuclear powered. All the power stations are nuclear powered. It gets 80 to 90% of its uranium from there. However, when France sell it to other countries, the sell-on effect, Niger only gets like 5 or 10%. Yeah. They're saying at the very least, if you give them 50-50, we might have to consider that. But because you've been hitting us up so hard like this all these years, 200 years and all this and that, we've had enough here now. We've had enough. And the hope is that the African example.
And then France, Nestle is France, isn't it? Nestle, yeah. So his French company was responsible for that crisis in Africa where they were trying to Nestle, and they were selling
look the milk. Well, look, even Ghana said, "Oi, carry on talking like how you talking." And I tell you what, there'll be no cocoa beans coming out of here. Yeah. Switzerland and all you lot destroyed.
But I can't remember what country it was in Africa, but they went out there and they were promoting and convincing the mothers out there to replace breast milk for Nestle milk, and promoting out there that Nestle milk is healthier for their children than mother's milk, and it caused a whole load of medical problems.
You can come back. All right, come back to COVID. Who were the big winners out of that? The pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Pfizer making billions a day.
Whatever other companies that could put on their flash or whatever that is COVID safe and 100% COVID.
That's right.
Killer and all that kind of stuff. When I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna milk this for a good 2 years. They're gonna milk COVID, anti-COVID device.
COVID ain't going anywhere for decades. They can run on that for decades because all you have to do is bring out a different strain. Mm-hmm. That's all you have to do. Bring out a different strain. Yeah, it's where they're taking us, and I think when you look at because there's many sort of angles that you can run this up from. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which one you pick, sooner or later you'll come back to the money angle. And I think in real time, the currency of Africa, it's the richest continent in the world. I think Africans are wanting to, we've got a little stake in that. I think we should try to reclaim some of that back. Because you know what, it's ours. We're working on the rules and legislation created for us. Because don't forget, all law, when we first started talking, all law comes from ancient maritime law. Now it's interesting, because the history, bartering, innit? Bartering's the history. So I've got a cow, you've got 2 goats. I know my cow is more valuable than your 2 goats. So I'll tell you what, put another 2 goats on there, we might have a deal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So over history, you've had beads. A good example would be something like Amsterdam back in the 15th, 16th century. They had tulips. That's how they became to be an international world power. Because don't forget, most things in finance are based on scarcity. The scarcer it is, the more somebody's willing to pay for it. That's why Bitcoins are interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that because there can only be 21 million of them. So you already get a feeling that if you've got one of them, even if you've just got one, that in itself, in the digital world, will validate you because everybody's going to want Bitcoin just like they want gold because it's digital gold. So that's how it's been transferred into the system. It as a technology, it burns too much energy and all this kind of stuff. But because of its immutability, which whoever possesses it, everybody knows that you're in possession of it because it's on the blockchain. That's what will give it its validity. If that makes sense. FedNow just started last month. You know what FedNow is? FedNow is the digital version what the American government's going to be using to give everybody money. Just like, because going back to COVID, don't forget, the reason for COVID was also to trial run. How would people respond to be given money to sit at home? Now here we are 3 years later, and you can see how that has been working out. Because some people want to go back to work, some people still want to work at home, other people want to go to the office. people have been doing that silent thing thing at work where I'll just come and do my hours and I'm off. So it's created a whole heap of dynamics. But the one dynamic it has created is this: you all still need money.
Yeah.
So you can go whichever way you want.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, you're gonna come back around to where we are.
You still got to clock in. Yeah. However you
I'm
want to
telling you now,
in.
Johnny. I'm telling you now. It sounds preposterous or whatever it sounds like. Digital money is the beginning of a new form of slavery, because those that don't have any digital assets, you have to take what you're given. That's why we're going through this process right now. Africa has to change. BRICS, the BRICS nations who are now trying to de-dollar the dollar, because everybody knows it's at the end. It's 100 years. It's been 100 years since it's been running. It's time now for the new money. So this is why in Africa as well, they're jockeying for position, because if we get trapped into this digital money, knowing that we're stuck in this old fiat system already, we are finished. So we're not doing that. The other thing is this: what people keep on forgetting as well, and there's another reason to suppress Africa, because Africa's got the best brains in the universe.
Facts.
Digital money, Mark Zuckerberg already created a digital money to use on Facebook 3 years ago. He wanted to launch it. They pulled him into Congress. They said, nah, man, you can't do this, because if you do this, we're going to get blown up. Because everybody will be, you've got 2 billion people on there. They'll all start using your money. Our currency's mashed up. No, you're not doing that. However, the major reason why they didn't want to use it is also because it was invented by Nigerians. It's not by accident that Nigeria was also the first country to force people onto the e-Naira, because they've already got their digital money. But the way how they did it, by handcuffing everybody and taking the smallest notes out of circulation. That's how they did it. But then people realised what it was. Now all of a sudden they started boycotting. Why? Because you put it on me by force and duress. If you came in a more accessible way and a better understanding, you can't just cut off my money and tell me that I'm going to go do
this money.
Nah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, can't do that.
So even the underpinning, because don't forget, have you ever heard of a film called The Lord of War? Yes. Nicolas Cage. Go back and watch that film, because fundamentally, that's what's happening in Africa. That's a good reference point, because who's providing all the weapons? Wagner's got 50,000 man in there. 50,000 man teamed up with the local soldiers of every country. It doesn't matter what Western force you bring in there, you can't win. And don't forget, even in the new direction, now it's not going to be the West, it's going to be the East that's having that situation in Africa. But the East have learned from the West, and they've not done it in that colonization way. We've done it in a softer, loan type way. Because anytime you can't pay me back my debts. Jamaica's a classic example, yeah. If you go down, if you know anybody who's from Jamaica, some people are making noise and argument about the new motorway that the Chinese have just put in. But if you go do your homework, the Chinese have been in power for 30 or 40 years. So when they start charging tolls on that road, you can't get from one end to the island or not. And that's why a lot of the Caribbean has been taken over like that. Because the old colonial mindset is getting wiped out. However, the victims of it, they still hold it. If I came around this table and punched you in your eye and walked out of this door, 20 minutes later, I forgot about it. For the next 20 days, you're going through the process of your eye going yellow, green, black, and whatever. Now all of a sudden, I can't see out of my eye properly. When I see that Bopper, I'm going to put a bread knife in his neck, because I might be able to see him with one eye. Because I'm not feeling it. You are. It's also now going to change the nature of how you feel about it, because of what it's doing to you, the effect that it's having on you.
So to close out, closing thoughts for the people, Bopper? Anything that they need to...
Folks, you owe it to yourself to start investigating, just for your own peace of mind. Even if you're not bothered about yourself, think about your future, which is your kids and all your generations coming behind. They're saying that what's going on right now in real time, if you care to look, it's the greatest wealth transfer in history, and they're not lying. However, the one thing that I know is most people aren't going to go investigate it. So when the wealth is transferred over, you can't be crying outside with your begging bowl. So you owe it to yourself to start to investigate the nature of this new financial system, the new digital. Any parent who listens to this, yeah, I implore you, whether they want to or not, have your children learn about blockchain technology, because that's the system that they're going to be using for the money. So at least have somebody in your house who understands the nature of this money. If people are interested, maybe we can get classes together. I mentioned the partner hand. The partner hand, what they're saying with the partner hand these days in digital asset terms is dollar cost averaging. If you can only afford 20 quid, you buy 20 quid's worth of them every week and you build it up that way. Somebody said to me the other day, yo, you got digital assets. I said, of course I have. I bought enough. When COVID was on, any free money I got during COVID, because that's what they were trying to tell you to do. When you get this free money, what do people do?
Pay the rent.
Well, wait a minute. Yo, new car, holidays, stuff for the house that you don't need. Because don't forget, the whole situation, as far as people are concerned, is based on consumerism. So I just need to keep you spending. That's why, like we said, when the digital money comes in, you're not going to be able to save it because the economy keeps moving over. Now, all of a sudden, the economy is not an issue. And also, if you remember, your currency is you. You're a sovereign being in your own right. Once you understand the nature of your sovereignty, technically, you become beyond powerful because you know what it means to be a supreme authority in your own right. And if you go and investigate it properly, you'll understand how the laws work for and against you. And don't forget, more importantly than anything else, if you notice in this world, all the examples that you see, you have to remember, it's those that learn to bend the rules to suit, not breaking, that succeed in this thing. And on that note, peace. I'm out.
Yeah, peace out. Bopper, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for joining us at this thing called podcast. Hey, listen, check out all the other episodes as well. We've had legendary people come on and talk to you about everything. Thanks to Weeksy on the boards. Make sure you check out his Instagram, Set the Pace Clothing. He's got enough different gams on there for you to get fresh on there. All right. Make sure you like and subscribe and tune in next time on.
One other thing.
Yeah,
I always like to say around here, black power, black power, black power. If you know the currency behind that, you'll be shouting that all day, every day out there and becoming ultra strong, ultra powerful, unifying with your people and marching to our rightful place in history and life in general. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Black power. Yes.
Black power.
This thing called podcast.